Okay, so usually, of course, I give my thoughts on the game during the credit sequence because it's something to talk about. Because a lot of games have extremely long credits, and I like to let the credits roll out. But I figured I would. Thank you, thank you, babe. I figured that I would allow. I would do this. I'll experiment with providing a review of the game, not like a completely in-depth review of the game. And now, if you had a Stream Deck, you could make that reveal go at the touch of a button. I can. It's called left mouse button, and my mouse is perfectly positioned over the place that I need to click. Um, yeah, I'd have a separate review so that if anyone is kind of wanting to look at how the game is in the year whenever I review the game, then they can have a more modern review than reviews written at the time. So let this be known that this is a 2022 review of Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver by an idiot. That's me. Uh, so I guess breakdown of what it is. It's a PlayStation 1 game. With all that entails. It's a, I guess, 3D action adventure with platforming elements and puzzle solving. In terms of gameplay mechanics, in terms of narrative, it's pretty cool. It's one of those games that is definitely more ambitious than the platform limitations possibly allowed for. To the point where, as my chat has informed me, the story ideas were split over 3 games. And it's, the story, voice acting, atmosphere, aesthetic all go far harder than they perhaps had any right to do in 1998. I think this game came out. I probably should have checked that beforehand. Never mind. If you are wanting to play it now, 1999, cool, thank you. If you are wanting to play it now, you can still pick it up relatively cheaply for the PC and PlayStation, but it is PC, PS1. There is a Dreamcast version as well, I believe. And there was recently an HD remaster for the Dreamcast ROM. If you are capable or happy emulating such things, there's an HD remaster for the Dreamcast, specifically the Dreamcast version of the ROM. Specifically the ROM of the Dreamcast version of the game. But let's go into it. Like I said, everything, the design wise, everything goes hard. It's asking big questions. It's perhaps overly flowery in places, but if you like that kind of writing like I do, then it's here for you. This is very much kind of the levels of, I guess, world building and thought provoking narrative that Ridley Scott was trying for with the most recent Alien movies. Prometheus and Covenant, sorry. Dreamcast is the platform the game was developed for, so it's the best version to go off of. Yes, so a note on that, I believe, what was it? The character models on the Dreamcast are more complex, but the textures are lower res, or something like that, and then the PlayStation and PC versions kind of just compromise between the two. Where was I? Yeah, so the writing is stellar, much like with Blood Omen. The writing has I would be 100% if I were playing this now for the first time with or just listening to it while doing something else, I would have been surprised to find out that it came from the late 90s, because the writing and the storytelling, and as Byron Mask pointed out, the voice acting is all incredible. Like, also the sound design, just in general. Apart from some slightly repetitive sound design in terms of ambient sounds and stuff, I would not be surprised to find it in a AAA title now. But obviously they hired relatively, I guess, unknown actors at the time in Simon Templeman, but Tony Jay's was doing Disney work at this time. It's always nice when actors can reprise their roles. So Simon Templeman returning as Kain was nice. Gives you that internal consistency to the series. As I say, the soundtrack was fantastic. I will definitely be trying to see if I can purchase that, because it was great, and that soundtrack I would like to I would like to work to. Obviously, this is not a full in-depth review. There's no gameplay behind it. This is just my thoughts on the game after the fact. There's a whole playthrough you can watch if you want to see the actual game. So that's really the positives: soundtrack, design, aesthetic, voice acting, writing. Downside, it is a PS1 title, so the controls are a little. They leave something to be desired. I don't know if it's because I was playing with a PS4 controller plugged into Steam or plugged into the computer, but I couldn't use the D-pad. I had to use the D-pad. I couldn't use the analog stick or thumbstick or whatever you want to call it. So some of the constrictability was singularly frustrating to use. I'm not sure how the targeting system works beyond R1 makes Raziel face an enemy. And I get, don't get me wrong, I grew up in PS1 games. I get the jank. It was just a bit weird going back to the fact that I have to use R2 and L2 to move the camera. I'm so used to, I'm used to thumbsticks by this point. And that Raziel moves in relation to the camera. So that was all a bit weird to get reacclimated to. And by the end of the game, I probably still wasn't, but that's what happens when you only play for like 6-9 hours a week. The worst things being physics, but it's a PS1 game, so I'm just gonna skate over that. Raziel was a bit sluggish on land and very flighty in the air, but as I say, PS1 jank. Overabundance of block puzzles. If you're not a fan of block puzzles, do not play this game. Big Tomb Raider vibes, but it's by Crystal Dynamics and Eidos, so there's that to consider. And the sound effect of blocks moving and blocks flipping, awful, absolutely awful. There was a whole section where where the stream was accidentally muted for an hour, and none of you really missed anything in terms of sound design. Thoughts on the obligatory water level? It was okay. I've had worse, I think. I can't remember what it was worse in, but it was a distinctly okay water level. I haven't played Ocarina of Time through to the Water Temple, so I don't have that to balance it out with. But there are certainly sections in Darksiders that I'm not a fan of the water levels in. The water level in this was largely just, I guess, ameliorated by the fact that you walk through the first half of it because the water kills you, and then you can just speed through the second half of it once you can swim, because Raziel swims pretty quickly, even though the swimming is very sensitive. That's it really. Those are the only real downsides. Just the controls and some of the gameplay decisions. The AI flag for aggroing humans, a bit annoying, considering I accidentally killed one human on the far side of the map from the human citadel, and then every human was like, "Nah, I'm going to kill you now." That was annoying. As I complained about several times throughout, some of the puzzles were a bit obtuse, but again, I admit that may be just the way I think and the assumptions I make about the game as I'm playing it. I'm totally aware to the option that my bias, to the probability that my bias has coloured my understanding of certain puzzles and mechanics. Although I'm still not a fan in games where puzzle solutions have no clue to them, because that just seems like poor game design. But that's just me. And obviously, I will admit also, for those watching this, if you've made it this far into the review, that playing a game and streaming a game are two very different experiences. And obviously, when you're streaming, you're checking chat and you're trying to keep things moving and keep things fun and entertaining. And I can see the view count, but I don't look at it because I don't have the Twitch dashboard up while I'm doing this. I'm just using OBS, and the view count is very tiny, and it is on the far side of the screen from the chat box. So I don't really notice it. So I don't have that as a distraction. But the constant need to entertain and perform at the best of my ability, not in a sexy way, does obviously take resources that could be devoted towards solving puzzles. So that's definitely something to be aware of. But for I guess in summer, to summarize, in summation, I don't know. based entirely on the fact that my main gripes with the game are some questionable puzzle design choices that still occur in video games today. And an interesting AI flag choice, and just pretty much PS1 jank and system limitations do not, those issues do not outweigh the world building, the design, the fact that the puzzles by and large were fun to do. I'm not a big fan of the Duma boss fight, air quote fight, but you know, that's what it is. And the Rahab boss fight was just a platforming puzzle rather than the boss fight, but there we go. But for world building, the game for the most part was fun to play. I will admit that. They clearly tried a lot. It was a very ambitious game, particularly for the time. With a sort of open world, very sprawling world map. Wasn't always entirely clear where to go, but obviously I'm playing this a lot after the fact, so the walkthroughs do exist as a crutch if you need them, or just as an accessibility aid. I use them as accessibility aids more than crutches, because crutch, I've just realised, is an ableist term. I do apologise. What was I? Yes. So very ambitious world building and design, and I can appreciate with hindsight, because this is a retro review of the, I'm not reviewing it, you know, in 1999. With hindsight, I can appreciate that some of the choices that have been made perhaps were made to build up a sequel, or to be refined in a sequel, and were dictated by system limitations like the lack of a world map. I would 100% recommend this for people to play now, particularly with the guides out there. Some of the puzzle solutions, I say, a bit out there, but as guides do exist that can get you around those issues if you don't want to beat your head against the brick wall of a puzzle for like 5 minutes. Based on world building, based on how fun the game was to play for the most part, because it did feel good to play, don't get me wrong, it did feel good to play. Based on the incredible voice acting and sound design, I will 100% give this an 8.5 out of 10. It's not a perfect game by any stretch of the imagination, even accounting for the limitations of the system, of the platform that it was on. But it's definitely up there, and I'm glad that I played it, because sometimes, you know, you play retro games and you kind of regret playing them. Not gonna lie, it's happened a couple of times. But I did not regret playing this. I would 100% play it again in a couple of years' time if I wanted to, and I had a fantastic time playing it. So I guess mostly to Unstable Deus, but thank you to everyone in my chat and my Discord and my Twitch community who recommended I play this, and who allowed me to play this, and who watched me play this and supported me in playing it, because it was a fun time, and I look forward to continuing the franchise at a future date. So those are my thoughts in a very long-winded 13.5-minute ramble. Hopefully it was at least somewhat coherent and got my points across. But here endeth the review. Goodbye.